Hey everyone, Neen here from the Hyperactive Bookworm. I got the most amazing opportunity to sit down and talk to Cheyenne Blue about her book, Code of Conduct. It is such a fantastic book and she is so amazing. I ask her some questions and then we just generally talk. She's very generous in discussing her writing and her experiences. For anyone who doesn't know, Cheyenne Blue started being published in 1999. She originally started writing erotic short stories. Since then, she's had 8 women-loving women romance novels published. They're contemporary, they're fantastic, and this is my sit-down chat with her about her book, Code of Conduct. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Hey everyone, please welcome Cheyenne Blue. Cheyenne, thank you so much for coming and joining us today, here to discuss your book. Can you just give us a quick, brief summary of what Code of Conduct is about?
Yeah, Code of Conduct, here it is, by the way. Here we go. Code of Conduct is a tennis romance, and tennis is one of my absolute passions, so I was really, really happy to write this. It's the story of Viva Jones, who is a top 10 tennis player, who won the US Open, but is now battling injury. She has a wrist injury, and the R word, the retirement word, is mentioned to her as something she should do. However, she has a chance meeting with a tennis official who is Gabriella Mendaro. They meet on a road in rural Australia. And the trouble is that Gabriella was the lineswoman who made a bad call that knocked her out of the US Open when Viva was defending her title. So they don't get on to too good a start. But eventually they sort of find their way through their differences and start to form a relationship. But there's one huge, huge problem with this. And this is actually a real life thing. It's not something I invented for the book. Tennis officials and players are not allowed to date. They're not allowed to be friends. They really cannot socialize. It's to obviously prevent, corruption in sport. So that is actually a real thing, and it really is in the umpire's code of conduct.
Wow.
Anyway, so Viva and Gabriella have not only to work their way through a bit of a bad start to their relationship, but they also have to deal with this huge thing that they are literally not allowed to date. So
wow, enforced enemies. Basically.
That's right. But real enemies. Well, not enemies, but just.
But yeah, the whole not allowed to, the whole Romeo Juliet sort of concept going on there a little bit with the start of it. The whole they're not allowed to be together. It's such a fantastic book, though. I absolutely love Viva. I think she's just so Aussie and wonderful, and I absolutely adore her. When you were just saying before that it's actually in the code of conduct, did you know that, or is this something that you researched? Or because obviously you said tennis is something that's a big passion of yours. How much did you already know about it, or did you have to go and research it to get this story?
Well, I always wanted to write a tennis story, but there's a lot of really, really good books around at the moment, relationships between players, relationships with coaches, with health providers and so on. And I wanted to come up with a slightly different angle. And at the time I admitted a little bit of a crush on one of the well-known female umpires. And every time I see her in a match, I'll be like, oh. So I thought, what about an umpire? And then I went off to research it, and lo and behold, it was in the code of conduct. It's rule 8 point something or the other. You can look it up.
Yeah, I think you actually mentioned the specific rule in the book. You actually put the specific rule there. Wow. Yeah.
And once I found out it really was a thing, well, that cemented it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And did you play tennis growing up, or was it just a passion that you like to watch?
I have my claim to fame in the tennis world is I was runner-up in the under 10 girls and in the small town I grew up in the UK. And that was due to my very flat serve, which was for 10-year-olds was pretty unreturnable, but I had absolutely no other shots.
Right.
So
So if they returned it, you were stuffed.
Once my opponent figured out the serve, I was absolutely creamed. I was history.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I like playing tennis. I don't play as much now because I'm sort of a bit older and creakier, but no, I still love it. Yeah.
All right. So you said when you were growing up in England, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, are you? Sorry, my dog is deciding she needs some attention. Hello.
Hello, doggo.
Yes. Sorry. So, were you actually born in England or are you born in Australia?
No, born in England. Came here when I was 20.
Oh wow! Here I am, just assuming you're an Aussie because you write just so beautiful, so enrichingly Australian. Like, that's one of my favorite things about these about your books is it feels like being represented for Aussies, and there don't seem to be a lot of books set in Australia, and I really love that. And for everyone watching, the cool thing is we've discovered, as me and Cheyenne were talking, that she is currently living in the small country town in Australia that I grew up in. So it's a very small world.
It is. I know. I'm going to walk around with a big sign that goes, I know you go.
Yeah. They'll all go, who?
Yeah. But actually, thank you. You know, that's possibly the compliment I treasure most about my writing, that you've said it's really Australian, because I grew up in the UK, but that's not where my roots are from, and that's not where my background's from. And I never particularly... The UK is a fabulous place and there's a lot to love about it, and I do love it, but it's not me. Here is me. And I came to Australia and I'm like, okay, this is it, I'm home.
Oh, that's so good. And
that
100% comes through in your book, especially in Code of Conduct. Viva, the main character, the tennis player, her family are living in a rural country town in Queensland, and I just felt like, oh, this could be the town I grew up in. Like, it was just so rich and real, and the characters are just so fantastically Australian. Like, their quirks, their personalities, the way they just deal with life, it's so beautiful and rich, and it was just so easy and fun to read.
Fabulous.
And when things are easy and fun to read, I know that just means there's so much work that gets put on behind it for it to feel so natural. So yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Now, we did have some questions come through over the last week. If we'll just go through, sorry, just looking them up. All right, so had someone ask, do you listen to music or noise when you write?
No, silence.
Okay. No.
I don't. Yeah.
It's interesting to see how everyone writes. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I love music. I listen to lots of different types, but when I'm writing, I prefer silence. Now, if I'm somewhere where there's background noise, I can tune that out. And I don't mind a radio like on really, really, really low, but it can't be, I don't like anything that sort of intrudes into my head, if you like.
Yeah.
So if I'm in a coffee shop or in the day job with the door closed, that's fine if there's sort of background noise, but no, not music.
Right. Wow. And so you have a full-time job as well as writing. So how do you balance? Like, are you a morning before work writer? Are you an evening writer? How do you seem to balance the working and the writing?
I'm a morning person, and you're a Queenslander. You know, in the summer that it's light at 3:30 a.m.
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm an early riser. In summer, I'll be up at 4, and I'll generally get an hour in then. In winter, it's a little bit harder to get out of bed, but I still generally manage to be up by 4:30 or 5, and that's my best writing time. Also in the day job, I am lucky enough to have an office at the moment, so I can close the door at lunchtime and get down 1,000 words.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
So that's generally when I do it. I'm hopeless in the evening. I have all the good intentions of sitting down after dinner or before dinner, but give me a wine and a deck and a view and the end of the day, and that's it. Nothing gets done.
Oh, wow. That totally just brought me back to the scene where Viva and Gabriella are sitting on the balcony with the wine and the dinner. That's like the perfect scene.
You know what? I've actually just realised it in writing my latest book, that practically all of my characters in every book, I think at some point they will sit on a veranda or a deck and have a glass of wine or a cup of coffee.
Excellent. I love it.
I can't think of a book I've written where they don't do it. They're champion veranda sitters.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. Oh, that's so cool. So when you do writing, are you a pantser or a planner?
When I wrote short stories, which is how I started 20 years ago, I was a total pantser, because short stories are more your slice of life, your little sound bite. And I started off writing novels that way and realized very quickly, not very long at all in, that I need to plot. Otherwise it stopped the sort of drumming the fingers, staring at the screen going, what happens next? So now I'm a plotter, but I still get booby trapped by, typically, diversions or side plots, or a character pops up and says, hey, I could do this, and that would be a nice little secondary plot.
Yeah, they're bastards, aren't they? They just go and do their own thing. As they have a life of their own.
a plotter now. I use Scrivener and I just outline and more or less stick to it.
Wow, that blows me away. All right, so you started in erotica in 2000, around 2000?
Yeah, around then. To be honest, I can't remember. I think it was 99, 2000, yeah.
Okay, cool. But now you've moved on to writing romance novels. You've got 8 at the moment?
I think so.
That's all good. Yeah, and so what are you currently working on at the moment?
Well, there's 2 in progress, because I'm with a publisher, the very wonderful Ilva Publishing. So my next book is out. I'm pretty sure it'll be November, and that's in editing at the moment. So we're a bit of to and froing with the editor at the moment. That's called the Number 94 Project, and it's set in Melbourne, so still in Australia. Yay. But in a city. Melbourne is my favourite Australian city. I lived there for years and years. Oh, you're going to say you lived in Melbourne too?
No, I didn't live there, but that's like, I have wanted to live in Melbourne so many times. I think it's just such a beautiful, rich, culturally, there's something tangible about Melbourne. I've always wanted to live there.
Yeah, Melbourne has everything. I mean, I'm more of a rural person than a city person, but I love Melbourne. Every time I go down there, I'm like, oh, this isn't have to move back. No doubt, no question. And then I get back up to Queensland and look at the sunshine and the lack of traffic and the beach. And, no, I'm in
the right spot. Yeah.
But this story is set in Melbourne, although there is a country element to it as well, as there is in most of my books. And it's the story of Georgie, who inherits a dilapidated inner city terrace in the Melbourne suburb of Abbotsford, which is actually a real place.
Okay.
From her uncle, who has just passed away. And her aim is that she's going to come down, sweep in and renovate it, and then put it on the market and get herself a good price and head off back to the outback. Of course, it doesn't quite happen like that. She finds herself in a gorgeous little queer community in Abbotsford, where there's a whole heap of her Uncle Bruce's eccentric friends and a lot of sort of chaos and sort of craziness happening. And of course she falls for the next door neighbour, who is Marta, who loves living in this street, Gaylord Street, it's called in the book. And she doesn't want to leave, and Georgie's going back. So what are they going to do? But it's very light-hearted. There's quite a bit of Aussie humour in it, and it's very Melbourne. It's totally
Excellent.
Melbourne. I've used a lot of real places and either disguised them slightly or just use their real names. Yeah.
Awesome. And so in Code of Conduct, I know we've discussed this, but the town that Viva's family comes from, that's based on a real town in Queensland. Is that correct?
Very definitely. In fact, it's based on the tiny little settlement, which is just to the north of Toowoomba. If you know Toowoomba, of course you know Toowoomba. And this little settlement is basically a crossroads with a pub, which in Code of Conduct, of course, Viva's parents run.
Yeah.
And has a camping ground out the back, and has a creek that and the creek path that Viva and Gabriella run along, and has the general store, and that's pretty much it. And it's actually a nice little town. I just gave it a new name.
Excellent. That's cool. Gonna have to go get out my atlas now.
Get the map out, you'll find it.
Yeah.
Starts with C, ends in R.
Yeah. All right. So with romance, there's a lot of common tropes that get used. Do you have a favorite trope in the romance genre that you like to read and that you like to write?
I really like writing opposites attract, and slight enemies to lovers, but I've tried it and can't really do it very well. Plus there's so many good authors writing it that I think I'll leave it to them, and that's the ice queens. So there's so many people writing ice queens. Hello, Lee Winter.
Yeah, I know. I was like, yeah, Lee Winter. Lee Winter. Oh, like every time I think of ice queen, she's the first thing that pops into my first name that pops into my head is Lee Winter.
Yeah, so I like opposites attract. I like country settings. I like small town, and I like the thrown together trope as well.
Excellent.
You know, EJ Noyes, there you go.
Yes.
Alone, it's a classic in that genre, isn't it?
Oh, she's fabulous. I only just discovered her recently, and I'm just absolutely loving her style, and just Alone was the most intense and amazing just book. It was so different, but you just, you kind of just had to go along for the ride.
I've just bought a new one, the dressage book, and I'm looking forward to that because I'm a bit of a horse person too, and I'm like, oh, pony club, I'm here for the pony club.
Yeah. Oh wow, yes, because that's in your oh gosh, A Heart That's Big with the pony club and stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was based on a bit of growing up and real experience in teaching Down syndrome kids to ride ponies. So that's where that came from. Yeah.
That's really fascinating. Sorry, I just get so caught up. I'm like, just keep going. Just keep going. It's great. I love it. Do you read just in the romance, women loving women genre, or do you read outside of, like, do you read other genres?
Oh no, I read quite widely. So I read non-fiction and literary fiction and just general novels. I read a lot of lesbian romance, so that's pretty much my main reading. I revisit childhood books from time to time. What else do I read? I'm not a big thriller person. That's pretty much the only thing I don't read, though, although there's well and truly exceptions in that rule. Yeah I read a lot.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love hearing
fantasy, young adult. Yeah.
That's awesome. No, I absolutely love that. I love hearing that authors read widely, not just in their writing field. I think it brings so much more to their experience and to their own writing personally. That could just be me though.
No, I couldn't agree more. That's absolutely it. Because if you were to, well, for me, obviously it's different for everybody, you know, your mileage may vary. But for me, if I was only to read in the genre in which I write, I think my writing would be poorer for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like life experience as well. It's the more you can get, the richer you can create for yourself. So I think that's fantastic. I absolutely love that you do that. So can you recommend what a favorite book that you've read recently? Or a good book, a good book you could recommend recently?
Actually, yes, I can, because I freaking love this book. And if you haven't read it, you're wanting Aussie books with Aussie characters.
Yeah.
I recently read Kickback by KJ.
Oh, that's on my list. I haven't got to it yet.
Read it. Neen, I don't know what you're doing. Just read it. It's fabulous. It's set in Melbourne, and it's about AFLW, which, for those who don't know, is what's AFL? Oh, Australian Football League, I guess.
Yeah.
And the W is women's. And AFLW is basically, it's not rugby, it's not Gaelic football. It's a fast-moving sport in that type of genre, ilk. And the women's teams are actually for real, starting off now, and they're in about their third year, I think.
Oh, that's so
anyway,
cool.
KJ's book is about an AFLW player and another woman. Sorry,
no,
KJ,
that's fantastic.
I've come completely blank. But the book is really Melbourne. It's really Aussie. KJ writes with immense humour and great style.
Awesome.
And she's got a way of, she can flick from just producing these beautifully crafted sentences that make you sort of stop and go, wow, wish I'd written that. And then paragraph down, she's making you pee yourself laughing. So.
Fantastic. No, I love recommendations, and I've been blown away by how many new authors I've found, especially if anyone's doing doing Jay's reading Sapphic reading challenge.
Yeah.
It's been so great in introducing me to all these authors that I may not have found, and it's just been brilliant. And speaking of Jay, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention that she's edited. Yeah. So Code of Conduct, your book, was actually edited by Jay.
Yes, in her editing real life persona, which is Sandra Girth.
Yeah, which is so cool. And it's just so fantastic. Just all these incredible authors that are all helping and working together, and it just brings out this beautiful community in everyone. Yeah.
And a good editor is gold. And I've been lucky because Ilva have actually got some of the best editors ever, I reckon. But Sandra is right up there. I learned so much from her in writing Code of Conduct, and she edited the next book as well, Heart This Big. And she's been fabulous. And every Ilva editor has been great, and I've learned something new from every one of them, and you know, I can just take it and move forward with it.
It's
huge fan.
I look at Ilva and I go, oh, it's an Ilva book. Yeah, I'll have a look. It'll be so well put together, whether it's your type of book or not. Like, the quality of it is just phenomenal. So
they do a lot of editing. They have 4 or 3 rounds. I've just finished content edits for my next book, and now it'll be going into copy editing, and then you have a proofreader after that.
They're fantastic.
There's a lot of, there's as much to and froing as you want, and questions and discussions and debate. And no, I'm not going to do that. Not often, they're always right, to be honest.
That's fantastic. So Code of Conduct actually fits quite a few of the Sapphic Reading Challenge as well.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It's opposites attract. A genre you might not read, being sports romance. And in fact, I had a lovely email from somebody recently saying that they picked it up for that category and then loved it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Really, what else? Country you don't live in, Australia.
If you're not an Aussie.
Yeah.
What
else?
The enemies to lovers, because they sort of are enemies at the start.
Oh yeah, and they pretty much have to be because of the very real code of conduct.
Yeah. And there is Gabriella is quite the Ice Queen character. I know you say you don't do it very well, but I found her quite fantastic with the Ice Queen persona. That she
she's definitely cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of learn, well, you kind of have to figure out if it's really her personality or if it's something that she's had to do for the job. And it's quite interesting to see as you get to know her more from the beginning. And it's very, very cool.
Yeah, I would call her maybe a baby Ice Queen. She's not a Lee Winter standard Ice Queen.
She might be a light.
I sort of hesitate to label it as an ice queen book. I always want to say ice cream. An Ice Queen book. But there's a touch of that for sure.
Yeah. So I will chuck up you've got a little book card as well. So I'll put that up in the video so people can see it. So because I know that a lot of people in the group are actually doing the Sapphic Reading Challenge.
It's great.
Yeah,
Jay's challenges are legendary.
Oh, they're brilliant. It's just it creates such great let's try words. It creates such great discussion points in her readers group and stuff as well, like the discussions that have come out, and it's just so fantastic to see different points and different perspectives of the same thing. It's really cool. Well, just on the last note, where can readers find you?
Find me. I have a website, which is cheyenneblue.com. I'm here on Facebook. Now I'm on Facebook. I have my author page, which is Cheyenne Blue, but my profile is actually Cheyenne Kinsella, Kinsella. And the reason for that is Facebook doesn't believe that Cheyenne Blue is a real person and won't let me have the name, despite there being some sort of character in a movie, I think, with that name. That's probably why. Anyway, I can't fight Facebook. So you'll find me on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I am Cheyenne Blue, and Insta. I think that might be Cheyenne Blue Author. No consistency, none whatsoever. But if you want some photos of Aussie scenery as well, then Insta's the place. And I sort of float around all of them. I'm probably least active on Twitter. I don't seem to be very good at that.
I can't understand. I can't follow Twitter. I'm trying, but I just get so lost, and I'm like, okay, something's happened. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I was going to say 20,000 hashtags or whatever.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today. And anyone watching, if you haven't read Code of Conduct, go read it. It's fantastic. And where would you recommend people who haven't read any of your books, where would you recommend they start?
Okay. Well, Code of Conduct, especially if you are a sports romance fan, is absolutely the place. But if sports romance isn't your thing, and that's not for everybody, I would say my most popular book, which is A Heart This Big, is actually a great one to start with. It's warm, and it's got plot, and it's got romance, and it's set in Australia, and it's possibly my favorite book.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And Neen, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you everybody for listening. And it's been an absolute delight to chat with you.